Ravelry.com. You might have heard of this website before. It is an absolute treasure trove of information, inspiration, patterns and projects for any knitter or crocheter. However, as a new user, it's not the easiest website to learn how to navigate. I'm Em and I've been using Ravelry for 13 years, and in this video I'm going to show you some of the best features that Ravelry have to offer, including how to effectively search their database of over 1 million patterns. Yes, you heard that right, there are well over 1 million free and paid crochet and knitting patterns on Ravelry. So if you haven't done already, head on over to Ravelry.com, make yourself a free account and then come back to this video and we will get started. So once you've logged into Ravelry, your homepage should look something like this. On the left hand side here, we've got blog posts, so this side of the website changes, so yours might look a little bit differently to mine. And then on the right hand side, we've got a quick search bar and some helpful links. And in this quick search bar, we can search any of these categories. There's all sorts on here, from designers to projects to patterns to yarn brands. We can just type something in and search it here. I tend not to use the quick search. I think the advanced search is a much better way of searching the database on Ravelry. What we're going to be focusing on in this tutorial is this bar up here. So that bar at the top of the page, yours should look something like mine. Mine might look a little bit differently to yours because I've actually got a pro section here because I am a designer and I upload my own crochet patterns to Ravelry for you to download. I'm not going to be going through any of the pro features in this tutorial. What we're going to be looking at is how to effectively use Ravelry as a regular knitter or crocheter, not as a designer. So the most vital thing I think you need to learn how to do on Ravelry is to search the pattern database. And the way that I like to do this is by clicking patterns up here in the top bar. And then this takes us to the patterns page. Now we could, again, like the quick search bar here, type something in, but actually I prefer to use the advanced search here. I think it is a much easier way of filtering out patterns. So I'm going to click advanced search and it brings us to a page here. Oh, I've just got knitting selected, auto selected, so let's turn that off. So here you can see we've got 1.2 million crochet and knitting patterns on Ravelry. That includes free ones, that includes paid ones online, and it does include ones that are in books and magazines as well. So this is the patterns page. Yours might look a little bit differently to mine. So the way that I like to search the patterns is actually using these filters over here on the left hand side. I think that is the best way to filter your search. So we could filter our search by what weight yarn we've got. For example, say I've got a ball of Aran weight yarn and I don't know what to do with it and I'm looking for pattern inspiration and I want to maybe make a Christmas gift. It's November, so let's say I've got a ball of Aran yarn and I want to make a Christmas gift. So let's click Aran, and then I'm going to keep scrolling and see what other filters I can put on. So we've got needle size category. So say I want to make someone a crochet scarf, for example. So I would click here on category to accessories, over to neck and torso, and then down to scarf. There are a whole range of different categories for patterns on Ravelry, so have a look through and see what you can find in there. But for this tutorial we're going to click scarf, and then if we keep scrolling down we've got more filters, so I can actually choose which of these crafts I'm going to look for. So for example, I'm primarily a crocheter, so let's look for crochet patterns. And you know, say money's tight right now, I only want to look at free patterns, for example, so I'm going to tick free patterns. And then there are a whole range of other filters as well. I do sometimes use this attributes filter. It is really good if there's a particular technique you want to try, for example granny squares or colour work, or maybe you're looking for a knitted sock pattern and you only prefer toe up sock patterns. You can filter those out in this attribute section here, and like I said, there's a whole range of other filters here, how much yardage you have, etc. So play around with those filters because that's the only way really to learn how to get the most out of your Ravelry search. So we have filtered, our filters are up here now, so we filtered it for Aran weight yarn, crochet pattern, scarf, and they need to be free. So we've got up here is the sort bar. This is the other way I like to filter my pattern searches. So on the sort bar, it's currently set to filter best match. Now, I tend not to use the best match because I haven't actually typed anything in the bar, so there's nothing for it to best match to. So we can pick any one of these sort by options. The ones that I tend to use are hot right now because that tends to be new patterns that have come out or ones that are trending online, and that's quite fun to have a look at. I also like to use most popular and most projects, because if there is a pattern on Ravelry and it's got the most projects, for example, for a crochet scarf, it's probably a pretty good pattern. So let's have a look to see which pattern has the most projects for an Aran weight crochet scarf that's free on Ravelry. So our pattern here is the Queen Anne's lace scarf. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go in and have a look at that pattern page, and to get to this pattern page I just simply click on that photo. So this is what any pattern page should look like. On the left hand side here we've got photos of the pattern, and then we've got the name of the pattern and the designer and where it was published. We've got the date it was published, what yarn it uses, what weight the yarn is, what gauge it is, hook size, yardage, and what language it's in, which is pretty important for us crocheters because we need to know if it's UK terms or US terms, and there will be a flag there of what terms this is. This is UK terms crochet. So we've got some tags here, and those were those filters that I was saying about. So reversible, for example, is one of the attributes that you can tick when you upload a pattern to Ravelry. The way to access this pattern is there's usually just under all of this information about the pattern here that it says this pattern is available, and then it will say for free, and then you would click that link and it would take you to the website where that pattern is free, or potentially a PDF for you to download for free. If it's a paid pattern, it will say is available for example, £5, and you would click that. You would pay £5 via, I think it's PayPal that Ravelry use for their paid transactions, via PayPal, and then you can download that pattern. And also here as well, sometimes it will link through to a YouTube video. There's more and more patterns being released as videos as well as written patterns as well. So that is really, really handy. There's usually some notes here from the designer as well. Then at the top, you can see along here, we've got yarn ideas. So that is yarns that people have used for this project. We've got projects. So on Ravelry, you can actually upload your own projects with your own photos and keep notes and keep a record of your pattern, of your projects, and other people can view them too. So if someone for example, online and says, oh, what yarn did you use for and pattern did you use for that? I would really love to know. You can link them to your Ravelry project page and they'll have all the information that they need. We've also got blog posts linking to this. You can link your blog up to Ravelry, I believe. It's not something I've ever done myself. I don't actually have a blog anymore. So, and then we've got comments. You can leave a comment on the pattern, and there's also a forum on Ravelry, so you can actually link to this in forum posts on Ravelry as well. So there's a whole range of features and information just on this page. And then down here, we've got some stuff that we can do with this pattern. So we can save it in our favorites. So on Ravelry, you have a favorites list. You also have a queue, so you can queue up patterns ready to go. We can create a project. That's what I was saying. I'm going to talk about how to create a project later on in this video, where we create a project and we upload our own photos and notes. We can add it to our queue, like I said. We can add it to our library. So whenever you purchase a pattern or you download a free pattern, you can add it to your library, which is a great way of organizing all of your online patterns, because I know that if I don't buy a pattern on Ravelry, I tend to lose the PDF. So I like to buy my patterns on Ravelry because they're always forever saved on my Ravelry account. Then you can also share it as well. The main thing I like to do from my patterns page is actually have a look at the projects that other people have made. So I can do that by clicking up here on projects or over here on projects here. And this will take us to another search page of all of the projects made with this pattern. This page is arranged by newest first, but you can also do an advanced search of the projects people have made using this pattern. So you can click advanced, and then you can put on all those filters we talked about before. So you, for example, say you've only got a 5mm hook. You could click the 5mm hook and see what other people have made using that pattern with a 5mm hook, for example. And you can sort it by all of those categories you can for patterns. So Ravelry is really powerful, and I've just only showed you one aspect of Ravelry. The other way that I like to find patterns for is actually via the yarn search tab. So if I click yarns up here on the top bar, it takes us to a page similar to the pattern search page, and I tend to not use the advanced search to find a particular yarn. So when I would use this is if I had a quantity of yarn and I'm looking for inspiration to make a project with that particular yarn, and I do this quite a lot. So we can see here we've got a whole range of searches that I've done recently on Ravelry, and I actually searched for Drops Merino Extra Fine the other day. So we're going to search for this yarn as well. I've got quite a lot of this yarn right now, so let's look for some more pattern inspiration for this yarn. So I'm going to search for Drops Merino Extra Fine. It brings us to another search page, and you can see here it's found the yarn Drops Merino Extra Fine by Garn Studio. So I'm going to click on that, and it brings us to a page that's very, very similar to the patterns page. At the top here you can see there's all sorts of things we can click. There's buy, where we can buy it, projects that have used, comments on the yarn. The comment section is really great because people often leave reviews of patterns and yarns on there, and if you're thinking about buying a pattern or a yarn online and you're really not sure about it, it's a really great way of looking for some honest feedback on said pattern or yarn. So I do recommend having a little look in the comment section if that's something you're looking for. So on the yarn page there's a whole range of stuff to do, including having a look at other people's stashes and things like that. But what we're going to focus on now is specifically how I search for patterns through the yarn page, and that is I actually look through the projects that people have made with this yarn. So on Ravelry you can upload your own projects to your page and it will save them along with what yarn you use, what hook you use, the photo. You can upload photos, you can even keep notes for yourself on your patterns. I find this really helpful, especially for things like sock knitting where I need to keep count of how many rows and stitches I've done for certain points of the sock. So it's a really handy feature. I'm going to show you how to do that a little bit later, but for now we're just going to search the projects. So I'm going to click projects here. And it's taken us to a page, and these are some recently uploaded projects that people have made with this yarn. I'm then going to click advance, this red button here in the middle, and that should take us to a similar search to the pattern search page. So we can sort it by all of those different categories, like I said before, and we've got all of those filters down the left hand side before. So when I was looking for Drops Merino Extra Fine, I was actually looking to see what blankets people have made and specifically how much yarn they used for those blankets, so I know if I've got enough to make a blanket. So let's sort of repeat that search I was doing the other day. So down the left hand side we've got filters. So on those filters, I'm going to scroll down to the pattern category, because I know I'm probably going to make a blanket from this yarn. If you've been on my channel before, you know I'm a little bit obsessed with crochet blankets. So we're going to click blanket, and I'm just going to click all blanket patterns here. So this will bring up all of the projects using Drops Merino Extra Fine yarn in a blanket project. And I'm also going to click crochet because I like crochet blankets, not knitted blankets. So now this is bringing up a whole range of blankets that people have made using Drops Merino Extra Fine. Honestly, Ravelry can be a really powerful tool if you know how to use it. Like, searching this compared to searching somewhere like Instagram is a world of difference. You can find so much on Ravelry. I mean, look at all of these different blankets people have made with this yarn. It's fantastic. Okay, let's have a look at some of the other features that Ravelry have to offer up here. So we've got the community bar. The forum is not as active as it used to be when I first started using it over 13 years ago. I feel like social media is a little bit more active for knitters and crocheters to meet each other online now. However, some forums are still active. You can add friends on Ravelry as well. You can see up here I've got 11 unread messages, and I imagine they're all friend requests. I need to go through really and clear my inbox. So like I said, there are community features, but they're not anything that I use, so I'm probably not going to go through it in this video. Then to the next of that, we've got support. So if you've got any questions, you need some help, there is some great information about Ravelry on here. And then we've got that advanced search, that quick search bar again. So over here, we've got, like I said, the message bar. We've also got posts, because you can link your blog to Ravelry as well. It's not something I've done before. And next to that, we've got my notebook, and these tools are the ones I'm going to be talking about next. So we've got projects, queue, stash, handspun, tools, favorites, and library. I'm going to be honest, I don't use tools or handspun. I know how to use stash, but I don't use it anymore. But we're going to run through these, and I think the best one to start with is probably the projects. This is what I was saying earlier about uploading your own projects. So if I click onto projects, it will take me to my page where all of my projects are. And I'm going to be honest with you right now, this is not up to date. It is not particularly organised, and there are a lot of missing information. I tend to have a sit down every month or so and update it at the minute, and it is long overdue. So this is my projects page. You can see I've added photos to various projects, and then if we, for example, click on one of these projects, I'll show you the sort of information you can add to it. So I've got some photos down the left hand side here of the socks. I've got the name that I named my projects, and it also tells me what pattern I've used, what craft it is, what category it is, what size needles I've used, and what yarn I've used, which is a really handy way of sort of keeping track of what you're making. And it's really nice sometimes to just look back and look at things I was making like 5 years ago, and I have not kept up with Ravelry until the last year or two. I used it religiously in the beginning, and then I had quite a few years where I didn't keep up to date with all of my projects, so there are some projects missing, which I wish I'd kept up with it, but I do now. And yeah, it's really nice sometimes to just look back at projects I was doing and like, oh yeah, I forgot I made that. Oh yeah, I remember that yarn, I really liked it. So that's really nice. And then over on the right hand side here, there's a box here that has the dates that I've started and the dates that I've finished, and I wish I had these for some of my projects because it would be really interesting to know how long it took me to make some of my projects. So these socks looks like it took me just over 2 weeks. So yeah. And then we've got the pattern I used and things down here. So to create one of these pages, there's a few ways of doing it. So the first way is to go to your projects page and then click add a project here. And then I can click what project it is. So for example, let's use my Hexadaisy pattern. So I'm starting another Hexadaisy blanket. So I'm going to name my project blanket. I'm going to say I used a pattern and I'm going to use Hexadaisy. That's my pattern. And there are other options here, like if you didn't use a pattern, which I do often. So yeah, and then it's going to ask me which pattern did I mean. So I'm going to click this one here. And then I can add in all of that information we're talking about. So we can upload photos here, I can write who I've made it for, I can put when I want to finish it by, I can add the date that I've started over here. I can actually rate how happy I am with this project, which is quite good, because there are some projects, and they always are, that aren't your favourite projects. So the rating is quite good, and the status, whether I frogged it. So if you don't know what a frog is, it means you've ripped your work out because you rip it, so you frogged it, doesn't exist anymore. And hibernating is where you put something away and forget about it for a bit, which I do quite a lot. So yes, we've got all sorts of information here. We can add what hook size we used, we can add the gauge that we got, we can add the yarn, and we can actually type in notes here. For example, started with, I don't know, 33 stitches, and then I can go back and add notes to this as I go so that I can refer back to them later, which is super handy. It's just great to have all the information about a project in one place rather than in like a little scribbled down notebook or a bit of paper that you can lose. I know that it's always there. And then we'd click save changes, and that's created a new project that you will then be able to see from my projects page here. I'm just going to quickly delete this because I'm not actually starting another Hexadaisy blanket. And then the other way that we can add a project is actually directly from the patterns page. So if we go back to patterns, I'm just going to click a random pattern, and then we can actually click over here, cast on project, and then we go to, it comes up with this, and we click create this project, and it automatically adds a project to your page really quickly. And then you can go in and click the edit button up here to edit the details of that project, or edit over here. So those are two ways of how to add projects to your page. So let's have a look at some of the other tools that are available. So the next feature we can talk about is the stash feature, and this feature is not one that I use anymore, but I did used to. As you can see, I've got a couple of yarns here that I stashed. This is from 2014, for example. So the way that you can add to stashes, there are two ways. It works very similar to the projects. You can use the add a stash button over here to find the yarn that you want to add to your stash. Or you can, again, find the yarn and then click the add to stash button on the yarn page. So it works very similar to projects. So I'm not going to run through that with you again. The other thing to say is some people do sell or trade their stash on Ravelry. So if that's something you're interested in, there are tabs over here for that. So some of the other features on Ravelry that I want to talk about are the queue, the favourites, and library. I'm not going to talk about handspun or tools because they're not tools that I've used myself. So if we talk about favourites first, favourites is great because it means that I can keep in one place everything that I've liked. So say I see a project on Ravelry that I like, I can favourite it, or a pattern or a yarn, and then it will appear on this favourites list, and you can actually search your own favourites, which is excellent. Look, over here on the left hand side, I can advanced search things that I've previously liked on Ravelry. I mean, that's you. Like, it's really difficult to do stuff like that on social media, and that's why Ravelry is just such a fantastic tool. So on here we can see it's currently on like most recent, I think, because this looks like it's the most recent thing that I've liked, which is a hat pattern that I want to knit in the future. So this is different to the queue list. So if I click on my queue, you'll see what I mean. So on the queue list, this is a queue that you can keep up to date, and you can add a pattern to it that you want to make, and you can sort of make a queue of, in order, the ones that you want to make. This is a little bit out of date. This is kind of like a dream queue, kind of like a dream queue at the minute, because I really want a handmade wardrobe with knitted and crochet clothes, so I've got those queued up at the minute. So you can add patterns to your queue directly from the pattern page, or again you can add it to your queue over here on the left hand side. And when you do add something to your queue, you can actually plan what yarn you're going to use for that project. You could add a pattern from your favourites list and then add some yarn from your stash list onto your queue, so you're all organised and ready to go for your next project. I am not that much of an organised person, so I sort of use my Ravelry queue, but my plans change, and I sometimes just randomly cast or start a new project without even planning it first. So yeah, but the queues tool is really handy. So another tool on here that for me is an absolute lifesaver is my library. So if I click on my library, this is all of the PDF patterns that either that I've bought or free ones that I've specifically clicked save to my library. And oh my goodness, this is so helpful. Whenever I buy a PDF pattern on another platform, I always lose it. So yeah, it's really handy having all of my PDFs in one place. And I can then download these onto any device, any platform, and I don't have to email them to myself or anything. I can literally directly download these straight from my library every time, and that is why I recommend buying my patterns on Ravelry if you can, rather than Etsy, because you can store them in your library. And the other thing that's great about Ravelry is if a designer updates a pattern, for example, adds some more sizes or corrects some spelling mistakes, for example, it automatically updates your library so that you then can only download the new version. It's a really good feature, the library. And again, you can add things from your library from the patterns page. So that's all of the tools over here on the right hand side that we've gone through, and I think that this video has been a pretty good overview of some of the best features of Ravelry. If you want to know anything else about Ravelry or have any requests for future tutorials, let me know down in the comments, and I will see you next time.